Good morning. Good morning.
Yes, sir.
Hello, Dr. Sarkar. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Ramesh. Good morning, Mr. Satish. So you have a lovely background, it seems, Mr. Ramesh. Perfect weekend.
Otherwise, it's gonna be
Perfect Saturday. A Saturday cannot be better than this.
Yeah. Wish there was more real there than a virtual background, but yeah, how much we long to be there. Yeah.
Good morning, Mr. Kar.
Very good. Very good.
Good morning, Mr. Ramesh.
So one of our alumnus, Arijit, I think he has also joined.
Right.
Hello, sir.
Hello. How are you doing?
Good, sir. Good. How are you?
Fine. Thank you.
It's a pleasure, sir, after such a long time.
It's officing from home for you.
Yes, sir. Work from home. Yeah.
That is a good thing about IT sector.
Yes.
Even
I would say
education is
both
working
and
from
both
home
and
now.
play.
Okay. So Dr. Shubharna is here, and she's our madam of today's class. So, madam,
Good morning,
we
madam.
are all your students. You
Good morning, ma'am.
you have to unmute yourself. You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Great to see you all.
He's also here from, I think he's also coordinating. So he has been coordinating with all of us. Thank you, Sudeep. And
my pleasure.
okay, so just see when we can start. I think it is just people are joining, it seems.
Yes, sir. So, sir, can we wait for some 5 to 10 minutes so that we can see that?
That you obviously you signal that, and meanwhile over to Dr. Dha, if you can apprise about today's how are we planning the discussions today, and since it is of 2 hours, so we need to be a little flexible, seeing in view the respondents who are here, primarily students, I believe.
Right.
Yeah, over to you, Dr. Dha.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
We can have an informal chat and spend some 5 minutes, knowing each other well, and then if Sudeep green flags us, then probably we can start.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've already shared the questions, the tentative questions. I mean, they are not cast in stone, but it gives the general direction that I've thought out. Maybe some things will emerge while we discuss, some questions may come up from the student side, or it may be, while we are discussing, we can have some questions coming up, some new thoughts coming up. So we will try to, accommodate them as time permits. But generally, the general questions I have already shared. So that will be the basis of our discussion. It's to guide students, the current job market. Because the COVID is a big thing. And another big thing is the way the IT world is progressing. So I think this would be the 2 primary pillars. And apart from that, also since these are fresh graduates, they will be going into the job market. They'll be going into the industry the first time. So some guidelines like do's and don'ts, like how they should conduct themselves, how they should engage themselves in continuous learning, along those lines. And since you are all from the industry, and we have case from the academia, I think it will be a good mix of academic and industry perspectives.
Right. Very good.
Good. And can you just brief us how the program will go?
Sorry, I
Yes, sir.
did not hear you. A bit louder.
Yeah, can you just brief us how the program will go?
Still not
So,
audible.
Am I
sir,
not audible?
He's asking about the program flow.
so
The flow of the program?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I've shared the questions. Have you got
I
it?
mean, questions I got.
Yeah.
so
How will the program start? Like,
yes, sir. Yes, I just want to
Okay.
brief it
So I
out.
think, yeah.
Sir, first of all, there will be welcome greetings to everyone. Then after a small introduction for our eminent speakers, our panelist members, and then ma'am will take as a host to drive the programs. And at last, we have questions from the attendees as well as our audience to our speakers. So this is all about the agenda.
okay, so initially, Dr. Dhar is going to ask the questions.
Yes, she will be moderating and hosting.
Okay. After that, the attendees are going to ask.
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
I think Sudeep, you can start with the introduction because it will be taking around
Sure, sir.
8 to 10 minutes of time. And you can start with your introduction and then you hand it over to Dr. Thar, right? Thank you.
So good afternoon, everyone. On the behalf of NSHM Knowledge Campus, I would like to express my sincere thanks to our honorable speakers, our host, our panelists, and each and every participants of the session. Welcome to the virtual corporate meet. Our topic for today's session is the future of work and computing and analytics education. Let me first introduce myself. My name is Sudeep Kumar, and I take the opportunity to represent corporate relation talent transformation of NSHM Knowledge Campus. I take care of computing and analytics portal. I'm extremely excited and feeling privileged to introduce our today's honorable speaker to the audience. Our first speaker for this session is Mr. Sudhan Ramesh from NASSCOM. Let me a brief intro of him. He leads the market development of the future skills prime initiative of NASSCOM, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. He has 2 decades of experience in the tech space and has successfully led multi-dimensional product and programs initiative with global organizations. He is tech nerd and perpetual learner. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you.
So now is the time to introduce our second speaker. So our second speaker for the session is Mr. Satish Katinedi, CEO and Managing Director, Digital Campus Service Private Limited. Almost 10 years of experience as Chief Executive Officer with a demonstrated history of working in the education management industry. A serial entrepreneur, innovator, technology architect, mentor, strategist, transformation specialist, skilled in entrepreneurship, strategic planning, business development, team building, and change management. A mechanical engineer by qualification and an entrepreneur by passion. Welcome, Satish, sir.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be with you all. Thanks a lot.
Sir. Now is this the time to introduce our third speaker, Mr. Arijit Aich. He is the alumnus of NSHM Knowledge Campus, a Bachelor of Computer Application, batch 2010 and 13. He had been a geek at heart since the very beginning. Since 2013, he had built and sold 3 startups from scratch. Post that, he joined us NSC enlisted technology company as the chief of the special project in 2018, thereby working directly with organizations like Future Group, Tata Housing to provide solution for their projects. In 2020, he joined as the head of the technology for an Australian advertising firm, where later on he got promoted as CEO of the company. Currently working as senior software engineer at Tipstat, Bangalore, for a US-based fund management company, in addition to architecting system design for other projects in the company. Welcome, Arijit.
Thank you. Thank you for such a wonderful introduction. Thank you. I'm glad. I'm honored to have you.
Thank you. Now is the time to introduce our panelist. As you all know, Professor Krishnendu Sarkar, a former scientist of CSIR, Council for Scientific and Research, Industrial Research, social worker, former head of academics of NSHM, and presently Chief of Strategy and Impact of NSHM Knowledge Campus. He is also the director of NSHM College of Management and Technology, and was accorded with the title of Master Educator by Dr. Edward De Bono of Lateral Thinking fame. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, I just want to take privilege to introduce our host for the session, Dr. Suparna Dhar, our associate professor and in charge computing and analytics, a PhD in business administration on information systems from Aligarh Muslim University, a master in statistics from Indian Statistical Institute, almost 24 years of experience in the IT industry, managing development of state-of-the-art IT solution for global clientele like in US, Europe, and Asia, contributing to business growth and organization competency development. She has been instrumental in architecting IT solutions of national importance, such as Unified Payments Infrastructure, which we know as UPI. She served as the chief data scientist for the Integrated Fraud Management System Development Project for NPCI. She has been a guest faculty for IIM Calcutta and developed numbers of case studies for the Case Research Center at IIM Calcutta. She is deeply involved in information systems research. She has presented her research work at International Conference of Information Systems, that's ICIS, and Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers at IEEE Conference, and many more. Her work has been published in Scopus Index and ABCD journals that we know as Australian Business Deans Council journals. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Lal. That was a wonderful introduction. Honored.
Now, without further ado, I request Suparna ma'am to begin the session for today's. And over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Lal, again. And good afternoon, our esteemed panelists, and good afternoon to all the participants. I'll take this opportunity to host the program, and I hope the discussions we have today with all the experience, the industry experience and the academic experience that we have on the panel will help the students. And students can ask questions anytime. And I think we also have a question answer session at the end. We'll discuss. Without further ado, let's start. So first, I'll start with a very important aspect about, this is the computing and analytics department, a technology department per se. But there is NSHM emphasizes a lot of soft skills. And this is a very important skill for all students, be it technology, be it or whatever be the field one is working. Particularly in the industry, this is very important. So I will first request KS, if you can share your thoughts about this, why we started this in NSHM, and then the other panelists can please join him and give their inputs.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Dha. You have put in a very important question, though it appears to be on the side wings of today's future of work with computing and analytics. But I have an important point to make here is that this implementation of human augmenting technologies, which is supposed to displace many jobs, right? This human augmenting technologies is, feared or whatever, presumed to, displace many jobs. And that's where the importance of life skills education, right at the very seed level in higher education, will be of paramount significance and importance. How do you cope up with the new realities? I mean, these transformative shifts which are happening, the Moore's law is now limited within few days. High rate of obsolescence of technologies and skills. Migration from industry 4.0 to 5.0. So as the humans will get augmented by the machines, I mean, how we can cope up using our own life skills, So when I say life skills, it's a huge bouquet of such skills. And I'm very happy that, Mr. Ramesh is here from NASCOM Future Skills. And today I received an email from one of our faculty members that one of our students has excelled at the district level in an area to do nothing with computing or in her area of psychology, but in the area of performing arts. Now, NASCOM Future Skills, in their set of professional skills, they also value the importance of life skills. So I think, Dr. Dha, you have made the right point that yes, while we talk about the future of work with computing analytics, it will be very, very important for us to also ensure that those human skills, those life skill set is also embedded in our computing and analytics education, because it has a very high rate of obsolescence, which people call about disruption and things like that. So it is a very important question. I'm sure that we will be directly or indirectly touching this particular point during our course of discussion. Thank you so much, Dr. Dha.
Mr. Ramesh, may I request your thoughts on this aspect?
Definitely, ma'am. So let me start out first by saying thank you for being a part of NASCOM Future Skills, right? So for the benefit of people who aren't aware of it, it's a joint initiative by NASCOM and the Ministry of Electronics and IT, with the important aim of upskilling and reskilling the workforce in the country. So it starts with the students and moves on to the workforce, right? So we have 10 emerging technologies, starting from cloud, AI, IoT, cybersec, so on. And as Dr. Krishnendu said, it also has the professional skill aspect, which are very important from a professional standpoint in terms of achieving the objectives in an efficient way. So there are different verticals like effective communication, design thinking, product management, collaboration, problem solving, etc. Coming to the point of Dr. Dar on the importance of soft skills, what I would like to point out is this: soft skills are anything but soft. It takes a tremendous effort to master these skills. It's like actually learning a new language where you have to constantly practice, get feedback, and improvise. I mean, soft skills are definitely needed to be successful in our careers, as there's always the need to communicate the right thing at the right time to the right audience and in the right way. The pandemic, of course, has changed the way in which we communicate and also deal with people in a myriad of ways. Face-to-face communications had its own advantages. We could figure out the body language, way people react, and so on. But now it's the time of virtual tools. Where we are right now is the direct result of the pandemic, right? And it's become more important for these professional skills to be incorporated into the mainstream, because not just for communication, areas like team management, like conflict resolution, improving team morale, everything has become virtual, and it takes a long time to master the tools involved, and also how and when to use them. It's of a paramount importance. And as I said before, it really does take skill and practice to figure out the ways in which we can apply these professional skills in different situations. So long story short, the soft or professional skills that I call it is very important in the workplace to get things done effectively.
Thank you, Mr. Ramesh. And you also brought up a very important point that we wanted to discuss. It's about the pandemic and how it has affected the job world, the professional world. So can you just discuss a little bit about that?
I mean, the pandemic has definitely affected the employability aspect or the entire ecosystem per se, but it has also brought about opportunities, right? I understand it took a toll on a majority of us. We have seen a lot of people lose their jobs. We have seen a lot of businesses folding up, but it has also brought out opportunities in which people and businesses can sustain themselves, right? So, especially in the areas of technology, there were a lot of initiatives which had happened or started pre-pandemic, but the pandemic has actually accelerated those kinds of developments, because digital was looked at as one of the ways of improving business, but now it has become the major way of improving business. So it becomes all the more important to get ahead of the curve by learning, upskilling, and reskilling in all these emerging technology areas so that we remain relevant and survive. That's the matter of game at this point in time. People who are quick to innovate, people who are quick to adopt to this opportunity are the ones who will stay ahead of the curve. Otherwise, all of us risk going behind in our journey. So that's something which I really wanted to emphasize here.
Mr. Ramesh, Mr. Ketanedi, you are looking at it, you being a CEO, you are looking at it from another perspective. I'm sure you have something to add on that. You can share your views.
Sure. Thank you very much. And thank you, Professor KS and Mr. Ramesh. In fact, I want to start with, like, in my business, if I say I expertise in technology, and then I focus on technology, that is one skill, hard skill. And the company affairs, I don't know, or company affairs is a different things. I don't know how to run a business, then business doesn't run. So how I want to put it as, I don't want to differentiate between soft skill and hard skill. That's the skill. Now, stress is a part of life, part of work, part of business. And stress management is necessary from day one, everywhere, either in the school, college. Now, as Mr. Ramesh said, very well said, that in the pandemic, that has become the necessity. Now, whether you have any technical skill or not, that takes a backseat now. Managing yourself, coping up with the new normals is the most and primary thing today. So now, by differentiating soft skill and the hard skill, I think we are creating a gap between these two. So when it comes to academics, as you asked the question in the beginning, I'd like to say these are part of academics. All these skills are part of academics. Leadership is not a different skill than the technology skill, technical skills. Communication is not a different skill. See, even as a programmer, what we do is communicate with the computer, communicate with the machine. And this artificial intelligence today, the data science that we are talking today, is all about communication. So communication is not just a communication from human to human. Communication between human to machine, machine to machine. And skill-wise, everything is same. So this is the point from where I request all the students to start looking at. These are not different. These are necessary. As Professor KS rightly said, they are life skills. They're not soft skills. And your work is not different from life. It is part of your life. And I request all the educators here to make it part of the curriculum, part of the academics. That is the skill necessary, without which all other skills probably don't shine. So finally, my take is not to differentiate between soft skill and hard skills. All skills are same, should be part of academics from day one. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And do you see the pandemic having any effect on employability of students?
Yeah, I think yes, definitely pandemic has an impact on the employability of students. One, I would say that is at the skilling level, training the new skills or new technologies, the new requirements of the market. We are still not totally ready for the online training, and the infrastructure is not fully developed. And more than all these things, the mindset is not yet ready for the online training to be trained also. Trainers are not fully equipped. The students are not fully ready. And yeah, online training is yet to mature. I think the pace at which it is going, yeah, and I'm satisfied that maybe next couple of quarters, we'll all be ready for that. And point number two, most of the students are not yet prepared for self-learning. This is very critical aspect in everybody's growth, dear students. Self-learning, I don't mean to say that you learn on your own, but no, you are willing to learn on your own. You are willing to, or no, another skill I would say, your skill to question, ask questions is one of the most important thing. And if you look at, when is the last time that you questioned yourself about anything? About your skills, your employability, what you want to learn, what you need to learn, what is the market seeking, or what is your plan? So what is the last time you have questioned? Or if you think since today morning, what did you question yourself? Or since yesterday, did you question yourself? Or last week, last month? So the questioning, probably questioning yourself or questioning the skill to ask the right question is the beginning of your learning. And if your learning starts from there, and then pandemic, no pandemic, technology, no technology, professors, no professors, library, no library, it makes no difference for you. It's all in your mindset. It's all in the way you look at the things. Everything is manageable. And probably, I think the pandemic, in fact, helped us. I feel, though temporarily there is a little impact on the employability and the skills of the students, but now this is an opportunity for transformation. The way the education, the way the technology, the way the coordination between education and the industry is transforming, the pace at which it is transforming is in fact wonderful. And this is possible because of the pandemic. Pandemic initially might look like a bad news, but I think pandemic is a good news. Pandemic helped us to transform ourselves, to transform the world, to transform the industry, to transform the education. So the transformation is possible now because of the pandemic. Yeah, for employability, I'm leaving it to students. What is needed, what is required in the market, that is all one side. But what you want to be, what's your vision, is the primary thing. Your everything, your learning, your skilling, everything starts from there. So pandemic is no barrier. It's you, either the barrier or the medium to go to the next orbit. You. Yeah, this is what my take on this.
Thank you, Mr. Khatri. That was a very deep kind of reflection. It's very enriching. Now I'll come to the changing technology landscape. When I started my career around 25 years back, I was in the IT industry, and we had things like COBOL and Fox Pro, and then it moved to open systems, and then to web technologies and whatnot. And now we have all the focus on digital and AI, and smart things. So how do you see, the current and the future of technology? So if I can ask Mr. IH, you are right there on the ground. So if you can start with your thoughts, what your experiences are.
Certainly. First of all, I would like to thank you NSHM for inviting me here in this session. I was like, I'm certainly not as experienced as the esteemed panelist here, but I would tell you my story. As you said just now, COBOL, before, like I have been an NSHM alumni, but before entering NSHM, and why I decided to enter NSHM for BCA specifically is because before that I was in Banaras Hindu University, and I was studying Eco Stat Maths, and Russian was a separate subject. But back then it was not known as data science, or it was not known as data analytics. This was the course package was. So it was economics, statistics, and mathematics. And there we were using Fortran. So when I was introduced to Fortran, that was the moment that hit me. Wow, this is amazing. I can that was the moment when I decided, figured it out that the entire universe is kind of a simulation. And if you want to get a data, make sense out of it, you just fetch the data out of it and visualize it. You can make sense out of that intense, huge amount of data. So moving ahead, after some things happened and I had to leave that college, and I went into NSHM for BCA because now I was so desperate to learn about computing and programming and all. Yes, this is something which is like a problem, as Mr. Ketanidi said, that no skill is separate. You have to develop it right from the grassroots level. That is itself true. But there are as of standing here and today, I would say there are three types of students. One who know what they have to do, they are desperate to learn that stuff. So it's if a student decides that I love programming, I would be going for programming. Then there is another set of students who are following the herd. So it's if most of the people are going towards programming, and because there's much of a pay scale, they would try to adopt to the technologies, learn those technologies, and then move into it. The difference between that is you need special kind of guidance. Like if I wouldn't have been guided by NSHM on how to work, how to code, and how to develop modules and develop things, I probably wouldn't have figured out what I need to do. There are many in my batchmate who have not like continued with their computing background or this subject, but there are also many who have reached at points where they're like, there's one of my friend who's working for Flipkart. So some of my friends I know who are adopting data analytics, like their companies are adopting data analytics for upgrading their existing systems. So it's like they are developing, people here must be knowing about A/B testing. So A/B testing is something which is already a data analytics thing. So people, coders test two UI modules, whether A version is better accepted or whether B version is better accepted. So there are a few companies whom I know who are creating systems where it will constantly get data from their existing users and keep on updating their UI without taking the help of any UI designers or coders. So basically, data analytics is something which is like impacting at every level. And if you're not enriched with proper kind of education at your grassroots levels, that becomes tough as and when you move ahead. So I'll tell you one option. Previously we were using back around in 2016, we had to provide like there were clients who were coming up to us and asking for a tool where they can just put up their existing data and fetch those data, like visualize those data on charts. Back then it was like data analytics was there, the term was there, but then we were using certain backdated technologies and it was not efficient enough to handle a huge ton or huge load of data. But right now we have immense amount of technologies which can handle, and you do not have to be a coder to work on those things. You can just use the tool, you can just learn the tool and use it. So for me, it's like, I would say, I would stick to the fact that yes, skilling is important, upskilling is important as and when we move ahead. I remember Professor Krishnendu Saka telling that Moore's law, about Moore's law. Moore's law is like, I'll tell you right now that recently IBM unveiled their 2 nanometer chips. And that is like probably extending to their limit. And how it usually should have happened, like where it was happening previously was every 2 years, there was a, like how Moore's law works is every 2 years, the number of transistors in your processor is compacted, like doubled. But that has been at a stagnant rate right now. It's not going ahead at that rate. Or I guess it has almost stopped. So yeah, so if you're not learning things at the grassroots level and you're trying to move up just because of the package and all, you are going to face trouble. So you have to get upskilled right from where you're starting. If you have decided that you're going into this industry, you have to learn from scratch. Do not skip or do not jump steps ahead. You might skip those steps and you might think that I'm getting good amount of salary, I'm getting a good job, everything is settled. But there would be some point of time where you will be facing trouble, because every day people are making new tools. People are coming up with new technologies. And me personally, being a coder, we have to learn technologies as and when clients require it. So many a time it happens that a client says that we would be needing this technology to be embedded into our system, and we don't know about that technology. So what we have to do is we have to learn that technology and then implement it. Because we were skilled right from the grassroots levels, right now we are in that stage where we can grasp any language or any tool at a matter of time, like within no matter of time. So yeah, I would like to stick to that you have to get trained from the grassroots levels. Yes. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Rice. So, Mr. Ketinedi, coming back to you, how do you see the industry expectations from fresh graduates changing, with this changing technology landscape?
Okay, yeah. Probably that is one of the most needed question, and that's the need of the hour. So, we basically, we are an R&D company. We are not into third-party services. So, as an R&D company, what we look for is their ability to learn, how fast they learn the new technology, how fast they adapt themselves to the change that is coming in the market. So even if somebody is an expert coming up with what we need today, and he is stuck to what he knows, probably will not take him. Who we want is a quick learner and enthusiastic learner, research oriented, and more than all these things, along with all these things, I should say he is adaptability to the new trends that are coming up in the work culture, in the industry, in the market, and in the academics too. So I would always look at like this when we go for campuses and all these things. I ask this question to most of the academic managements, like, who's your customer? So when I think there are professors, teachers are also there in this conference now. So I ask this question: who is the customer? So most of the academician, the education managements, they say student is their customers, and some of them they say parents are their customers. But indeed, industry is their customer. And for a student too, who is the student preparing for? The student is preparing himself for the industry. And to go a little deeper into this, every one of us preparing ourselves for the society. So now, what do we look for an employee? In an employee is all these things: how prepared he is to the society, how prepared he is to the industry. So as in the beginning, as Dr. Suparna said, what was there 20 years ago is not there 15 years ago. What was there 15 years ago, or we thought a big thing that has come up in the market, vanished in next 2-3 years. And what was there 10 years ago is not there 5 years ago. Probably what was there 2-3 years ago is not there today. The technology space is changing so fast. It is not only the technology, the industry is changing so fast. As Professor K.S. said, the industry 4.0, and we are not sure how fast industry 5.0 is coming, 6.0, or maybe after 6.0 it is 20.0, we don't know. That is the pace at which the industry is changing. Now we think, agriculture is the fundamental producer, farmer is the fundamental producer. The way agriculture is changing, the way the technology is impacting agriculture, the technology is impacting. So it's not one, the agriculture to the space, everything, it's changing so fast. And if the student is not prepared for that change and transformation in the society, in the market, in the world. And initially, as Arijit said, it might look initially, looking at the package and all, probably it might look good, but that will only become a survival mechanism. And survivors, probably industry is not looking at. We don't want survivors. We want achievers, whatever it is, because today some technology is there. Tomorrow we are not sure. This guy need to learn a new technology. Tomorrow, it's so fast. So what we need is that how quick you can adapt yourself to the new changes that are coming up in the world. And maybe if we look at the way the computing is changing. Now, I would like to share my experience. In fact, I started my business in somewhere around 95, 96. And in 2001, we have our first customer on cloud. But the word cloud was born in 2007 or 8. Even the word cloud was not born there. We had a customer in 2001, and from the beginning we had only SaaS model. Even the word SaaS model was actually originated 2006 or 7. But the cloud, what I thought was, what we developed that cloud was, because there was no cloud servers there, so we created the cloud servers and all these things. And once the cloud became popular, so what all we did, we didn't know where we were. And by that time, from 2001 to 9, we got to educate the market so much, because every customer was asking the same question: my data in your server, is it safe? So it took a lot of effort for us to convince them. And by 2009, people started understanding what is cloud, the data, the security of data in the cloud. People started understanding. By technology wise, probably we were already behind. The world technology started changing so fast. Then 2009 to 11, we got to transform ourselves so fast. Otherwise, we would become dinosaurs in the market. We would be extinct by then. So all our 9 years, 10 years research and experience that we had, and then probably that started sitting in our head by then, that no, we were pioneers in cloud. But next 2 years, if we don't change ourselves, transform ourselves, or upgrade ourselves, we were not there in the market. So all my 10 years, 11 years experience that time became zero, all of a sudden. And we got to immediately jump up, tighten our shoes, and then started upgrading our technology. We got to do it. And that's the need in the market. And if we sit back saying that, no, I know this already, I'm a pioneer in cloud, probably we would have vanished by now. So this is the most important employability skill that is needed, is keep learning, unlearning, learning, unlearning. So the most important skill today is that, learning to learn. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a very important point. I can see Case smiling, and yes, looks like he's busy. Mr. Ramesh, I think you were disconnected.
There was a network issue. I just logged back in. Sorry about that.
Yeah. We were having a discussion, and Mr. Katinidi was talking about the need for learning and unlearning and learning again. I think that's a very important point to discuss.
Learning to learn.
Yeah. So if you can share your views and how NSHM is working towards it, specifically for the students.
Right. When it comes to learning and unlearning, it also needs to do, we also need to take into account the intention of the students, right? So as the other panelists had also mentioned, it's to do with the interest and the intent of people who want to learn, right? If we have a lot of content available outside, we have a lot of platforms available outside, but we cannot always keep mandating people to learn things. It has to come from within, right? So it's more to do with what interests you. So anyone and everyone who comes to me and asks me about how I should pursue things, what new that I need to learn, I always tell them, map out your interests. So there is this model called Ikigai, which is the Japanese word for purpose of life. So I tell them, map out your characteristics, your passions, things that you are good at, and start moving in that direction. Talking about the NASSCOM Future Skills Prime Initiative, so it's got uh, content from the very basic level, which is the awareness level, moving to the foundational aspects of the emerging tech areas and deep skilling levels as well. So the awareness level is for people who do not know what the technology is all about. If someone wants to know what IoT is, if someone wants to know what cloud computing is, if someone wants to know what artificial intelligence or machine learning or blockchain is, they can come into the platform, register themselves, and go through that awareness content, which talks about, in a very crisp way, the intricacies of those emerging technologies. And if they want to move ahead, they want to see how this technology can be applied in their day-to-day work, they can go in for the foundational aspects of the course, which probably would run around for a few hours, probably 10, 20 hours per course. And once they get the hang of the actual technology, if they want to go deeper into it, there are deep skilling courses as well. At the end of the day, whatever course you do, whatever approach that you take in terms of learning technology, you need to know where you stand. So there comes the part of assessing your knowledge, because knowledge by itself doesn't have any value if it cannot be applied in the right way. Right? So you need to understand what you can do with the technology that you have learned. Right? There are always preconceived notions in the head which say that, okay, I don't want to do this because it's not relevant to my role or my job. But there is no harm in learning it. Only if you learn, you will feel the need of incorporating that new knowledge into your line of work or your line of education. Because everywhere you see, you have multiple routes to take, right? The choices that we had about 20 years ago, it's like increased manifold now. So it is up to us to understand what these choices are, select the best fit out of them based on your interests, passions, and goals and aspirations, and propagate a route in front of you. So this platform, Future Skills Prime platform, enables all that. Apart from that, we have tie-ups with multiple industries as a part of NASSCOM in bringing in content which is relevant to the industry. It's not like the courses are going to be obsolete soon, right? So the industry is feeding the content onto the platform because they know what they are working on. They know what the ecosystem needs, especially in terms of the professional skills as well as the technology skills and even the business areas which needs to be worked on, right? For example, take BFSI sector. We have all been used towards the traditional banking areas, but now when you look at it, you have your neobanks, your fintech companies like the Creds of the world, your Paytms, right? So they are changing the game, right? And what needs to be seen is that we need to figure out where technology fits into all this. Even traditional banking at this point in time, they are evolving. They are going into open banking, API-based banking, right? So they have to evolve because otherwise, if they don't do it, they will lose out to the newcomers into the market. So we always have that necessity in whichever stages of our careers we are, whether it is the beginner or mid-career or even end career, we need to know what is happening in the world when it comes to technology and its progress. So it becomes all the more relevant to stay updated skilling, upskilling, reskilling is a no-brainer. You have to do it to remain relevant. What needs to be done is to figure out what you want to do and where you want to do it and how you want to do it. Because as I said before, the choices are all out there. 20 years back, nobody knew about Google. And they are number one now. When I started with IT, the search engines were Yahoo, Alta Vista, Ask Jeeves. I don't know how many of the people here even know about them. I started with the Nokia 3310. Where are those companies now? Where are those feature phones now?
Prior to that was pager. Remember?
Exactly. When you look at how much you were charged for every call that you made with the cell phone,
Yes.
incoming
Yes.
was 40 rupees, outgoing was 80 rupees, right? Where are we now? We used to dial up to the internet with a 33.1 kbps modem. That was how we even reached out to the world. Now 400 Mbps is not enough because the amount of data and information that we consume has increased exponentially. I have a lot of devices around my house, the Amazon Echoes, the Google Home Minis. I have everything connected. 10 years back, 15 years back, this is not even something within our imagination.
In fact, the first Apollo mission, the entire mission was very successfully conducted. We all know that we send people out there, and it consumed few hundreds GB only. I don't remember exactly the number. It was less than 500 GB of data, which at that point of time was enough to get that entire Apollo mission done. And today people carry that in their handheld devices.
Yeah, because even the transistors and the modules that they created, they did it by hand. Even the semiconductors onto the wiring, they were doing it by hand. And there was no margin of error. It has to be 100% true because one short circuit there would nullify the entire component together. But here everything's miniaturized. 2 nanometers, right? So even quantum computers, I was reading an article the other day, they were talking about having handheld quantum computers within the decade. They are building glass-based chips rather than silicon-based chips, right? It's the current situation of technology somewhere there. What we are talking about, emerging technologies have already been incorporated into the industries, but a lot of industries are still hesitant to move towards it because of whatever reasons, because they don't, is that resistance to change, right? Typically when they are working on critical areas of business, there is always a resistance to change because, again, Murphy's law, don't change whatever is working, do not disturb that. But when you talk about R&D companies, fintechs, they are always eager to explore newer areas of technology because that helps them stand apart. Whether the technology is going to be used in the industry today remains to be seen. But when it comes to that point, they are ready with that solution. That's what I'm saying. Businesses shouldn't be catching up. They should be ahead of the curve. They should always reach out to the stars. Only then they will even try to get out of the atmosphere.
Right. Very
So
well said.
that
In fact, can I come in for a minute? Because see, I mean, what happens is that you get so many stimulations, and what Mr. Satish also said, and taking cue from even Arijit and of late Mr. Ramesh. Now we are talking about future of work, right? And we all know that we are not sure, right? That how technology will take the curves this way or that. But there is one certainty here. The one certainty which I think most of us were talking on those lines is, with so many transformations which we already know are happening, and which people like Satish are doing it, and it is not visible. right, all over the world. Even the startups are also doing a lot of things which probably we do not know, right? So if I factor in whatever are visible, like that iceberg, the tip I am saying, and the huge bottom is not visible. But we know for sure that the future of work will be with a lot of opportunities and also challenges. My dear students, now in order to be relevant with for whatever that future has in store for you, please use your skills. Now, this is the set of skills we are talking about: problem solving, critical thinking, your logic, which comes through your computing and analytics, a lot of data, to connect those benefits to the society. For example, we know that computer vision is getting a lot more polished, what it was before, and it is, we do facial recognitions, autonomous vehicles, and even vision corrections we are doing. But how you are able to connect that computer vision set of technologies, creating products and services which can help the society. Think about agriculture. Lot of precision agriculture you're bringing thanks to your analytics and AI. How you are able, how you are able to ensure that one particular plant gets that desired level of nutrients and also water. So we are saving water, saving energy. We have to ensure that we are able to manage our waste, how we are able to produce or get more from less, how you're supposed to feed people 10 years from now. I mean, with your kind of a land use in which probably we are having the habitats and increasing the concretization is happening. Think about the requirements, energy requirements, think about the water requirements, other resources requirements. And most of those resources are irreparable, the non-renewable, right? So I believe, strongly believe, that if we are talking about robotic process automation today, if you are talking about a deep learning based NLP and a lot of other stuff, please do. And we need to study, as you all said, upskilling, de-learning, relearning. But end of the day, to remain ahead of the curve, which all of us have been talking about in future, we always have to be creative enough and innovative enough to connect it to the benefits of that of the society. Society means of we the people. And as we are talking on this particular day, 50%, nearly 50% of our population probably are 30 years behind. 30 years behind. And we are talking about an inclusive world. Now, here is an opportunity to use these technologies of the future to make that kind of an inclusive world a reality. That brings peace and happiness, and that is the end objective, right? So this was something I got as a trigger from that. I jumped in. Okay.
Sir,
Thank you.
makes complete relevance, right? So when we are talking about agriculture, so I was talking with a few students from the university who I've been interacting with. So they were developing something for agriculture using IoT. So when you are talking about the nutrient content of the soil and how the crops are growing, right? So they developed a sensor which is fixed into the soil. It gains power from the acidity, alkalinity of the soil. So with that difference, it creates a microcurrent to enable that IoT sensor. And there is a device which goes throughout the length of the field, figures out what kind of nutrients are in place in the soil, because no human intervention is involved in there. These are very required things which can be done with technologies, right? So these are important for survival for us as a species, right? As you said, these are resources. Once they are gone, they are gone. We cannot reclaim it back, or we have to spend 1,000 times more than what we did when things were good, right? So I just have this message to the students. So the advent of technologies here, it might look overwhelming. I understand, because it's not just for you, even for all of us, it looks overwhelming because the rate of advent and the evolution and progress of technology, it's like something is changing every day. But the best way to approach this would be to understand the basics. We need to understand the past to understand how the future would pan out. Because nothing is happening in isolation, everything is interrelated. This is the natural advancement based on technological progress. Every technology out there started as a way to solve a particular problem or a set of problems. And when these problems evolved, the technologies have to naturally evolve. That's what is happening, right? So when the technologies involved are evolving, we also need to have a change in the curriculum so that people from the student community also know about it, which in turn would be mapped to the skill sets that people require to achieve the end goals in the organization wherever you are at. There is nothing to be afraid of. Just understand and research about what is out there, map your interests, aspirations, and follow them. If you succeed, go ahead. That is the road for you. Even if there are difficulties, learn from the lessons and improvise. Failure is not something which should stop you. It should be a stepping stone for you to improvise and move ahead. That's something which I wanted to convey to the students here.
It was a great discussion. And in fact, the discussion that has been going on, Mr. Katinedi and KS and Mr. Ramesh also talked about the agriculture and BFSI and all kinds of applications. And, it brings to my mind even in research, like, when there is a cross application of knowledge, it actually revolutionizes the world. Like, say there is some polymer which has come from some chemistry research, and that is applied medicine, right? And it really brings a lot of development. So this cross, and we also know about Steve Jobs, who actually learned computing and calligraphy. And the result was the beautiful UIs that we have on the Apple phones. Okay, so this cross-discipline knowledge actually is of very high importance. And this necessitates sometimes to go beyond the curriculum and study new things. So we have nowadays the choice-based curriculums, and we also have options for MOOCs and other platforms for learning. So how should students prepare themselves with all these available resources? How can they gain from these, these knowledge resources and build themselves to contribute to the social development? I leave it to open. I'm not addressing this question to anybody, but I think everybody will have something to contribute.
So probably I could start. Okay, I just give a tidbit of my personal experience. So I am a mechanical engineer, right? And then I moved into tech consulting. So I was a part of the BFSI vertical in a large product organization. I did my MBA. And then I started building products. And then I started looking at building platforms, right? And then I realized whatever I'm doing at the end of the day, I should focus on the consumer. So at that point in time, UI, UX were coming into existence. But I would still feel that even if you build 100 different personas of the people who are going to use your platform or the product, there is always something missing. Because we need to get into the psyche of users. So you have psychology, you have social psychology, right? So there is something in the way that our brains are wired. So we need to figure out how things are happening in the mind so that we can translate that social and individual requirement and transform it into the products and platforms that we are building. When we talk about how this can contribute to the society, is anything and everything that we build should, as I said before, should solve a problem. Either it is a problem which people are aware of, or it should be a problem that people have been facing, have been taking it for granted. They don't even realize that it is a problem, right? For example, iPhones, as ma'am put it, it came up with a completely touchscreen based interface, which was never seen before. What was the problem that Jobs was trying to solve? More than a techie, he was a good marketer. He knew what sells. The first time they came up with the demonstration of the iPhone, the phone was actually not working when he was on stage. How many people knew that? But he tuned the audience in such a way that this is going to be the next best thing and you are going to want it. Why did people buy it? Because there was an inherent problem with the way they were working. I can see a lot of stuff on the screen. That was a problem statement. Ease of use. I have the App Store, right? These were not heard of in feature phones, even the so-called big screen touch phones from Nokia and other players like the Motorola's of the world before the advent of touch screens. Coming back to the question, the social aspect of solving problems should be the main factor in which we design things. How does it benefit the society at large? How do I reach a billion people? How do I make life easier for them? That is the question that each innovator should answer to himself. Forget about the company or the society at large. He or she should understand what they are doing, why they are doing it for. Is it only for the money? There are 100 ways to earn money. But when you leave a legacy behind which affects the society at large, it means that you are there. You have achieved something. People will be talking about you or at least your product till the end of time. Or at least you will be demarcated to history, but you are there. So this kind of thought should be with everyone in whatever they are doing. Even in an organization, when people are working for someone, they should ask pertinent questions. Why am I doing this? We should not assume that the people above us are always right. At the end of the day, we are humans. We are bound to make mistakes. But if there is something which is apparent to you, you might not have all the inputs, but you also need to understand that the things that I'm doing right now should be catering to a larger objective. Figure that objective rather than coming in for a job, staying there from 9 to 6, finishing off your task, delivering your task, and then move on. It shouldn't be like that. That is something which I learned during the initial stages of my career because people appreciate that. So that is something that the student community should start doing it at a very early stage because they have to learn, they have to work hard. Don't look at the results of your labor, right? So the initial stages of your career will determine the ease of progress in your future. Learn from everyone and everything. Keep evolving yourself personally and professionally. Always keep ahead of the curve in whatever way possible. Plus, apply these learnings so that it stays in your head. As I said before, just knowledge without applying doesn't bear any fruit, right? And then you fine-tune your interests and strengths to focus on building a road which is specifically made for you. This may sound as a gyan, but this is the hard truth and reality. That's my take. Over to you.
Yeah, Professor KS, maybe this is one input to you, as Ramesh said, and I actually qualified it as a skill that probably you need to input, you have to include as a questioning skill. That's probably one of the most important skills that students need now.
I mean, there is a quote, right? Better to look stupid asking a question than to remain in mediocrity for the rest of your life without asking that question.
Exactly. And that's the first step of learning too.
Exactly. You have to
Asking.
question. Look at kids. Whatever they see, they'll be like, what is this? Why is it doing it this way? They are learning. That's how their brain gets wired. During the course of our time, we have lost that ability to ask those pertinent questions. That's something which is very, very important, and it is which I feel is missing nowadays. Even for me, it's not like I am immune to that. Sometimes I just assume things because my experience gives me a sense of a know-it-all during certain situations. But it's not the case. I would have been anticipating something else, and what is happening in reality is something else. Only if I ask and understand the situation on the ground will I be able to take a qualified view of that problem.
Exactly. In fact, I tell my employees, I always tell them, ask. And if you don't ask, probably that might end up in a huge cost.
Yeah.
So asking the question, the appropriate or right question is more important than a right answer.
Correct.
So Arijit, were you asking questions when you were a student?
Actually, a lot, and you might get a report from the teachers back then. But yeah, usually even now, what Mr. Satish said is perfectly right. Even now, when we are handling a client, or even if we are handling a project, we need to ask questions, and we need to ask questions until the utmost level. Because if you are not clear about your what your objectives are, what you have to work on, and what the client is asking for, if you don't understand that, you are not going to build that good enough. So yeah, that is something which is of utmost priority to would-be coders or anyone who is entering into the technological industry. Yeah, over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. In fact, borrowing from the inputs, so I can only revert back to my future of work kind of impression that let us, we the educators or the learners, the continuous learners in particular, we have to ask questions. And the questions can be of present and future. I'm talking about this context of present and future. We can have as simple as a question like, how can your image processing, whatever tech you are using, the high tech, pattern recognition and stuff like that, I am an end user. I am consuming your data, your image data or whatever kind of data you are giving, multimedia data. How your AI or whatever can help me to segregate the fake from the rest? Bachao, please. We are creating this is a huge problem today with so much of information around, and these are all make you believe kind of an information. So so here is a huge problem, and it can reach huge benefits to the society, add to the peace and the happiness of people. It can be as simple as that, to as complex as, please save the moon and the Mars. Why we require mining? We are also doing a lot of mining here, and most of those things are probably not required or needed. Can we have some kind of an intelligence? Can we empower those rest close to 50% people who are not included and create a force so that we are happy with what we have? Come on. Just because we have great technologies, you are supposed to mine the moon, you are supposed to mine the Mars, and you are mining your own stuff, you are We don't know you're cutting huge chunk of ices from those glaciers and the Alps and for your potable water or what kind of a mineral water you want to sell, I don't know. So these are huge gamut of problems. These are new problems and interesting problems. And with this kind of a problem-based or inquiry-based, we learn a lot because we are able to do. We have all learned programming using our own, learning methods. Nobody taught us. And that was a thrill we had, solving those little problems. So I'm sure that we as educators out here and elsewhere, we have to take up problems. We have to take up small problems to begin with and try to move solving those. And this is how I believe that we can make a good future, if not great, for all of us. Right? This is my only submission with the questions.
I completely resonate with you, sir. I mean, we have a lot of existing problems that we need solving. Let's not go and invent new problems. And let's make use of the technology in hand to figure out the solutions to those problems. You have put it really well. That's the problem with the human species, right? That's the fallacy of humanity as a whole. We are not content with anything that we have. We always look out for more. That is not a bad thing if you look at it, but we put more value on something which does not deserve that value. The natural resources, sucking the planet dry for its resources, be it oil or minerals or whatever, right? That's something for a very bigger audience, and probably we are not the target audience here. But then what you're saying should resonate with all of us here. Anything and everything to do with technology should be used to solve a problem. Take even for an example, cloud computing, right? Earlier, we used to have a lot of huge data centers within the organizations which needed their own power supply, which needed their own air conditioners. But now it's like everything's on the cloud, right? At the end of the day, the cloud infrastructure is also a humongous data center somewhere in the world, different availability zones everywhere. But they are solving a problem of consolidating that infrastructure so that the requirement of resources to run it decreases rather than spreading it across in isolation and consuming more. For an individual, it might not make a difference, but for the country or the globe as a whole, the amount of resources which is consumed goes down a bit, even if not in a very high level, right? A lot of countries have stopped using coal-powered power generation, right? They are looking at sustainable energy sources. They are making the nuclear power plants safe enough. That still remains to be seen, but a lot of governments are actively pursuing that. And the enablers for all this is technology, be it hardware or software or anything in between, right? What in the early 50s and 60s, 50 MB disk was like a huge house. Now we have terabytes of data in our fingertips, which consumes a fraction of that power. So the improvement in technology also helps reduce the footprint. Again, it all has to do with trying to solve a problem. Do you want to miniaturize it? For what reason? Because it takes more space, it consumes more power. Miniaturize it, the power consumption would be less. Inherent problem should always be the target, and everything will fall into place, rather than working on things in isolation and then see if everything falls into place. Solve a problem, everything related to that problem will fall into place. It will be chaotic initially, but then you can see that structure in chaos.
So if I may interfere, if I may comment, you are right about this. What I wanted to add was for the students or anyone who is going to pursue into entrepreneurship and looking forward to find out a problem and solve it. Just one thing which I learned in my entire journey is that if a problem is there and you know that someone else has solved it out, do not think that you cannot do it. Go ahead and build that solution. Maybe that your solution might be better than the existing one. That is one. And secondly, if there is a solution which you want to build and you see that nobody else is doing it, now you get to think that if I am going to do it, will that work? Because I'm doing it for the first time. I don't even know whether that market exists or not. Don't think about that even. If you want to do it, just go ahead and do. I'll just give you one example. It probably would be self-boasting, but it's like relevant here. I am personally employed into a company, but I make sure that I dedicate more, like at least half of my time, of my work time, or at least 1/4 of my work time into my own project, which is like I'm trying to use a railgun to transfer cargo from one point to another. Now, I don't know whether that will be possible or not, but I am right now investing as much amount of time and money into it to figure out whether that can exist or not. So it's some kind of a side experiment for me. So that's the thing. If you think that there are options and you think that your option might not work, just go ahead and do it. If there aren't any option, don't even think about it the second time. Just go ahead and pursue your dream or pursue your whatever you want to achieve. Leave the rest about the market, whether you will be generating business or not, whether that tool will be efficient or whether anyone would be using it or not. Just forget about it. If you think that you are going to use it, there will be one other person who will be willing to use it again. Over to you, sir. Ramesh, sir.
Thanks, man. It's a very pertinent comment which you made. So I have been dealing with quite a few startups from mentorship level. So the first question that they ask me, I have this idea which I want to pursue. Will this be fruitful? Why not? We have to try it. What if Google or Microsoft replicates it? If they wanted to replicate it, they would have done it. Or worst come worst, you get that product on board, they will acquire you if your product is good enough. Don't, as you said, what the students and the innovator community has to understand is focus on the innovation, focus on the problem to be solved. The market will appear out of nowhere because we don't have a picture of the entire world on what they want. Maybe the product that you want to build is already out there. That's okay. You would have figured out another way of doing it, right? A wheel is a wheel, irrespective of whether it is made out of wood or rubber, right? You have to always have that thought of innovating. Figure out your innovation, figure out your invention. If it is something which is very good and which is not out there, try out ways you can take an intellectual property right out of it. Copyright your invention, trademark it, right? Do whatever it takes, but the onus on the innovation is with you. It's with no one else. The idea originated in your head and you have to do what it takes to take it to the next level and see it working right in front of you, whether it is a piece of software or an app or a physical invention, even writing for that matter. I mean, a lot of people think, okay, will I be able to write? Only if you start writing, you'll know it. The very important aspect of anything that you do is don't be shy about feedback and critiques. That is the only way to improve yourself. You might have a grand idea in your head. You might want to pursue that good enough, but if you think that my idea is the best, I don't want anyone to talk bad about it or give me a bad feedback, then you are destined to lose. Let me be very blunt. You have to be open to feedback and criticism. Only then you will be able to move ahead. For example, you see a lot of apps in the App Store. You see the ratings. Not everyone will give a 5-star rating. There will be 1 star, 2 stars also. If you say that, no, I'm not going to cater to your need, I'm only going to focus on the 5-star ratings, I don't really care about your feedback, it takes a few seconds to delete that app from the phone. The feedback mechanism now is so robust, you won't even have time to respond. I install an app on my phone. The very instant I feel that the user interface and user experience is bad, I won't even go back to the Play Store to give a rating. I'll just delete it. It's the case for everything. This is a personal app. I'm talking about even enterprise applications falling into the same category because they are hesitant to take feedback, or they cater only to a specific audience, they ignore the other audience. That specific audience may be 10%. The people who are not giving the feedback may be 90%, right? 100 people downloading an app, only 5 people give the feedback. Does it mean only the 5 people are important? No. You have to look at that 95% who have downloaded and do not use it anymore, right? That's how you need to look at things. Always look for feedback in whatever you do. That is the only way to improve. You know it. Even our academics teach us that. Every semester when we write exams, we get feedback in terms of marks, in terms of our viva, right? What does that entail? Okay, I have got 90%, I'm happy, I have failed. Oh shit, I'm not going to pursue this course anymore. No, you're not doing that, right? You take that feedback, improvise on yourself, and go to the next level. The whole of life should be framed in such a way, not only your study period. That's very, very important. Getting feedback and improvising on that feedback, because every failure is a lesson learned. It doesn't go in vain. You learn from everyone. Every single person that you meet, you learn something from them. Try to figure out what that lesson is. Even if you meet someone on the road today, if you have a conversation for a minute, you can still learn something from that person on how he is, how he's moving with you, his body language, what he's talking, what he's wearing, how is he presenting himself. Everything needs to be absorbed in within you. I'm not saying be influenced by all that information. You have to have that filter within you anyway to take the relevant ones, but you have to take in all of them. And how we are going to approach those lessons learned is something which is very pertinent only to you. Only you know what to filter and how to filter it and what is relevant to your objective.
Valid discussion.
In fact, I would like to add another angle to this, the failure. Some of these questions I'm seeing here about entrepreneurship and startup. If you are a failure as a startup, congratulations. You'll be absorbed at a very top level in organizations like Microsoft, Google, or IBM, because they need people with failures, because you'll be the most successful now. Congratulations if you are a failure. And I don't know what is your relationship with failure. Not able to produce what you wanted is not a failure. Yeah, maybe that is a failure in the business sense, but you are a successful entrepreneur. You are a successful startup. So there is nothing called failure. As Ramesh pointed out, that is the need of the hour today. As a startup, you are successful, congratulations. If you are failure, double congratulations, because you are absorbed. And that is the culture that is coming up in India too now. Because in the startup ecosystem, we are now at number 3, I think, right, Mr. Ramesh? After US and Israel, we are at number 3. And the success of Silicon Valley is that in the Silicon Valley, if any entrepreneur as a startup is a failure, he has a red carpet welcome into the big B's of IT industries. And that culture is just starting in India. Now, if Indian big B's start doing that, within no time, we'll be number 1 in the startup ecosystem. So welcome all of you to the startup world.
Right, very valid points. And that brings to the next point in discussion that I would really like to bring up. And that is, if students have some entrepreneurial dreams, what should they do to prepare themselves, or how should they go about it? Like, today there's a lot of discussion about don't just be a job seeker, be a job creator. And it's a big encouragement to students towards entrepreneurship. There's a encouragement from all spheres. So how should they prepare themselves, or what should they do? Again, the question is open. Anybody, please question.
Sure. The question is very open and broad. Opportunities are always out there, right? The choices that are in front of students are humongous. You have multiple platforms offering different different avenues of opportunities, be it web, mobile development, social marketing, and promotion of goods and services on various channels. Your content creation, online coaching across subjects. So there was this friend of mine who is in the media business. During the advent of the pandemic, he didn't get enough projects. So when he was talking to me, I said, you have the necessary skills for understanding acting as a professional. Create a course content, publish it. People would be benefited. Whoever wants to get into that profession will be benefited, and you will be benefited financially, right? So there is no dearth of profession outside. What I would only say is focus on your passions. Don't just try to emulate someone who is successful, like your role models or peers or people who have already established in the startup space, because they are a dime a dozen, right? There will be something which is very close to your heart. Pick up something which, again, would follow the Ikigai model. Pardon me for saying this, because I am a big proponent of that model, right? It always says that purpose in life should be in the intersection of what you are good at, what you love to do, what helps the society, and what brings in money. Build a list of items in these 4 categories and see where that intersection is. That is where you need to start your road on. Anything and everything will be doing it just for the sake of doing it. If it is a question of survival, we have to do whatever comes our way. But if it is a question of achieving something in life, leaving a legacy behind, this is the only way to do it. Because if you don't have the passion and love for what you're doing, you will stop doing it midway and you'll pursue something else. Let it be in any stream, technology, arts, sciences, whatever it is, run towards your passion. That's very, very critical. That this might sound a bit convoluted, but at the end of the day, looking back at your career, you'll feel happy that you have pursued something worthwhile. When you have retired, you are not going to look back at the designations that you held, the size of the projects that you are running. No, the memories that you helped create. The type of memories that you help create defines who you are. Let it be anything. Focus on technology, do something good with that. As I said before, solve a problem which affects the community and society as a whole. People will remember you. Focus on energy conservation, renewable energy, agriculture, arts, right? These are things which will remain relevant whichever technology comes out. Right? We have artificial intelligence systems creating pieces of art. Right? They are mimicking the conventional artists. They are mimicking musicians. See, technology is an enabler. Understand that. Technology is only an enabler. What you are going to do with it is up to your imagination. That's what I keep telling with the discussions that I have with Future Skills Prime as well. We enable you with the technologies, the professional skills. How you are going to apply it is for you to decide. I am teaching you A, B, C, D till Z. How you are going to use those alphabets, whether you want to write a book, want to create poetry, it's up to you. Technology is the same, it's an enabler. We have data being generated or data being doubled every few weeks in the whole of the world. What are we doing with that data? That's where all these ML, AI, analytics come into play. We have generated a lot of data, but are we making sense of it? We had this RDBMS, your Oracle, SQL servers, your DB2s of the world as traditional databases. Now you come into your NoSQL, your big data, unstructured data, JSON, whatever you call it, right? They pick up information from everywhere, aggregate it, and come to a conclusion which will help businesses go to the next level. That's what it is. 20 years back, I used to input all the data in my Excel sheet and key in formulae to figure out the analytics. But it's not the case anymore. I tell the system what I need as the end goal. I feed in data. The system comes up with its own conclusion. Whether I take it or not, this depends on how the business ecosystem is. But the machine does everything. It is an enabler. It is helping me take decisions, but the decision is my own. That's what you need.
I'm having a question for all of you. So this entrepreneurship, in a way, is also like this technology. End of the day, an entrepreneur is also an enabler. Now, if I may also add to your viewpoints and to Dr. Dhar's question, specific question that how you create entrepreneurship from computing and analytics, right? Let us take this example since we are talking about the future of work or the future of entrepreneurship with computing and analytics. I will recommend this, find your Pareto. I mean, that 80-20 rule will apply. Now, if you are in a particular program of study under, say, this big, vast domain of computing and analytics, find the 20% which is under your radar, your interest area, right? You have problems in mind and you want that 20. So you super specialize, you focus and achieve that learning, the deep learning into that 20%, and rest you fairly be good with 80%. Similarly, when you are supposed to pick up skills beyond your syllabus, again you apply your Pareto, and that Pareto should be your inner call. That Pareto you will decide, right, as an entrepreneur. Because the focus has to be there. Identify those simple problems in your area of interest or inspiration or motivation or as challenge, and then create your Pareto around that and focus deep on that 20%. And I'm sure that this is how we will be able to do justice to our spirit of entrepreneurships. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to. Yeah. Okay. So here I'd like to bring in another probably a new angle or a different angle rather. We are talking about the future, right? Future of work and computing and analytics space. How many of you or how many of us know the future? What is our future? To be frank, I don't know. I don't know what is the future. If I know the future, probably I would settle down as an astrologer or a fortune teller. I'll not be sitting here. See, one, or even if you look at dictionary for the future is something probably which we do not know. This is uncertain. And how many of you are okay with uncertainty? And most of us are not okay with uncertainty. We want certainty. And certainty is a survival game. And one skill I recommend that we all should master is not to look at the future, but to look from the future. I repeat, not to look at the future, but to look from the future. I'll distinguish what is look at the future and look from the future. When we want to look at the future, what do we look? We look from what we already know. So when we actually want to look at the future, we are in fact not looking at the future. We are in fact looking at our past and extrapolating it and calling it a future. Right? So we are probably bringing something and putting in the future and thinking that it is the future. That is not the future, absolutely. So now let me tell you what is looking from the future. Now, frankly speaking, none of us know the future. What it is going to be tomorrow, forget about 10 years from now. We don't even know. We don't know. So the future probably is nothing, is empty. We don't know. It's empty. It's a clean slate. It's a clean canvas. Now it is your ability, your imagination, your creativity to picture the canvas. You write your story, what you want to be or what you will be, not even what you want to be, what you will be after 10 years or what you will be after 20 years. And now from there, now look what you are supposed to do today to be that in 20 years from now. If we actually distinguish the future as default future and designed future. Default future is looking from what you already know is your default future. You will be directed by somebody, something. You will be a slave to conditions. If you look from the future, you design your future. You write your story today. I request all of you, take some time, take a fresh book, write your story 20 years from now, with no past, with no present. 20 years from today, what you will be as an entrepreneur, as an employee, as an employer, as a farmer, whatever you want to be, whatever you dream to be, you write that. That's your vision. And now surrender yourself to the vision. Make your vision bigger than your life. I don't mean to say you take such a risk and tomorrow if you fall from there, you will break your hands and legs. I'm not saying that. Make your vision bigger than your life means you surrender yourself to that vision and work now from that vision. You are unstoppable. Believe me, every one of your dream and dream of everyone here will be fulfilled. There are no questions about it. You write your story 10 years from now and 20 years from now, and that is what you will be. That's it.
If I may come in, queuing up from Ramesh sir and Satish sir, to all those NSHmites who are watching this right now, I just wanted to, like, as they said, being a job seeker to a job provider, and as Mr. Satish said, that do not think about the future. That's the point when this came to me. I just wanted to share it with you guys. When I was in my third year in NSHM, Professor Sarkar was my principal back then. And I still know, like, I got into the world of web development because of Professor Sarkar, because I still remember my college was hosting our first fest, technology fest. And he came up to me, like, I was asked to build a website. And that was the moment when I got my first paycheck for developing a website, for coding a website. And that was the point when I realized that I have to build a tool which can help people get jobs in the market. And at the same time, I wanted to be a job provider rather than a job seeker. So that was the point when I started making Recruitdesk. Recruitdesk was a recruitment platform. I continued it even after I passed out of college. Like, I did it with one of my college friends. It went ahead. We moved it to Pune and then to Bangalore. After that, I sold my company. And then I moved up, like, I moved in my life, where all of us moved in our lives. And I'll tell you what, like 3 years back, I guess it was, suddenly one of my partners back then, like one of my recruiters partners, told me, Arijit, do you know what happened to our platform? I said, no, like, after we sold, we didn't keep track of that, whatever the owners did with it. So he told me that the platform was sold to another company for $1.5 million. And believe me, we were not even close to that amount when we sold it. Not even close, like not even 1/10. So that's what, if you think that you have to build something, just go ahead and build it. Don't think about anything. Everything else will fall in place. But the moment you lose faith in your product, the moment you lose faith in what your vision is, that's the point you will be losing yourself. So as Mr. Satish said, do not ever think about your future so much. Just focus on what you have to be, like what you want to be, what you need to be. That's all. And when things like, I still remember when I was having like trouble with my college days, like whether, so again, I'm not boasting, but the way I speak right now, I was not even close there. Like, I couldn't even barely speak. So like, speak to normal people, I was very shy and kind of that. So I would like to thank Saujanya Puri ma'am, for helping me out of that situation. And like, she drove me to talk to people, to communicate with people, so that I get to get feedback, as Mr. Ramesh said, get feedback of your product, get feedback of your idea. And if you are not efficient enough to communicate with others, then you won't be able to know, or you won't ever get to know what the product's actual value is. So without thinking much, talk to people. See, another thing which I personally felt at that point of time is, if I talk to people, people might steal away my idea. Frankly, people don't have that much time to think about your idea and bring another version of it until and unless you are successful enough. So talk to people as much as you can. That way you yourself will help yourself. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, in fact, and I want to share my experience when he's saying talk to people, and what I said, look from the future. In fact, I didn't know when I said, when I was in, again, same third year of my college. So there was a professor, external professor came to our college, and he was asking, what do you want to be? I suddenly stood up and said, I want to be an entrepreneur. By that time, I didn't even know what an entrepreneurship, what troubles we'll have as an entrepreneur. I just said, I want to be an entrepreneur. And then everybody laughed at me, my friends, and you give me a job after you start your business. I said, you come, everybody. And in fact, right after I finished my college, I have all my admission I-20 ready with 100% scholarship. But I want to be an entrepreneur, and I have 2,000 rupees in my pocket. And I started business with 2,000 rupees. And then within 5 years, I went for a public listing. I went for an IPO. I'm 25 at that time. And in fact, I want to share my experience before that IPO. So I made a plan. I wanted to develop a product, something called cloud. That time, I never even called it cloud. And I don't know how to get the fund. And I went to Bombay. I asked people like who will fund. Some people said the fund managers of the big funds, mutual funds. They're the people to go. Then I took my profile and started going there, and nobody gave me time. I said, okay, man, I keep going because I don't have anything to lose there. And one day I happened to go to Salman Spitburne. I didn't even know what was Salman Spitburne at that time. I didn't even know that it was an investment division of Citibank. I went to the receptionist and I asked, I want to meet a fund manager. She said, what for? I said, I have a project I want to discuss. She said, who do you want to speak? I said, I don't know. Then she said, okay, till 4 o'clock market is there. You have to wait till 4 o'clock. After market closes only, fund managers will come out. I said, I'll sit here. And I sat till 4 o'clock. And after 4 o'clock, somebody came and I told him, this is what I want to do. He laughed at me and said, do you know where did you come? You came to Salman Spitburne. I said, I don't know what Salman Spitburne is. I said, okay. And he heard my story for 10-15 minutes. He said, boss, I can't believe this. Don't waste my time. I said, okay. And then he said, okay, can you meet me in the evening at some Cricket Club of India? I said, wow, whether you invest or not, I want to go to Cricket Club of India. I want to come there. So evening I went there. He called a couple of his friends. So for 3 of them, again, I started telling my story. And end of the story, all 3 of them laughed and said, boss, this is like a fiction movie story. We don't believe. I said, okay, that's good. Thanks for this invite. I saw all the museum of cricket. But finally they said, we don't believe in what all you said, whether it is possible or not, but we believe you. We want to invest. And they invested at a premium at that age. And after that investment, in fact, what I dreamt became possible. And that came into the market. And of course, now when we sold it and another 2 products we made. As Arijit said, no, you declare, you write your future, believe in it, keep going, keep going, keep going. You'll be successful.
That was a very encouraging story, and both from Mr. Raj, also the encouraging remarks from Mr. Ramesh. KS always, you always have KS to encourage us. I think we have come to the end of our time. His time is very short. This discussion could have gone on and on. But we have a time limit and we have come to the end of the time. So with this, I would like to thank all the panelists, Mr. Katinidhi, Mr. Raj, Mr. Ramesh, and of course KS. And thank you, Mr. Lal, for organizing this. I think we'll end here today. Over to you, Mr. Lal.
Ma'am, thank you, sir. Thank you very much for this for your valuable, inspiring, and motivational words. So,
do you have any questions from students?
Ma'am, we have already given them. Okay. So it was a pleasure to have you all of us. Thank you for all attending and being a part of this session. I hope it was an enlightening for us all, and our students have learned and enjoyed this event. On behalf of NSHM Knowledge Campus and our presenters, thank you for joining us today and have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Mr. Kaur,
Thank you very
thank you,
much.
Dr.
Great.
Dhar, thank you, Ramesh sir.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Sudhir.
Pleasure.
I
I just
Thank you.
have
Take
one
care.
word which I want to say before we part,
Please, sir.
right? What I want to tell the students is be patient. I see a lot of people want immediate gratification in what they are doing, right? This is something which I completely missed out during our discussion. Be patient, but pursue it diligently. Whatever you are doing, you are sure to get the results. There is one mantra which I want to share with you, which thoroughly encapsulates the summary. Notabilis, Sociatrix, Humanus, and Maxime. Have this mantra. It is a part of your institution. That's where you are at. Noteworthy collaboration for best development of humankind. You can't get a better mantra anywhere. Collaborate, figure out problems, work together towards the betterment of the society. Always have that in your head. That is going to be your mantra from now, if not already is. You have, this is one of the best names for an institute that I could find. Walk the talk. Get that essence of your institution within you, inside your DNA. Everything will come to you. That's what I wanted to share, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank
Thanks
you.
for the opportunity to learn.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Satish.
Thank you, guys. Pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. Dhar.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Bye.
Arijit, ভালো থেকো।
Sir, আপনিও থাকবেন স্যার।
Have a nice weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.